and I was watching my dad being hauled off by the Iraqi army to get, executed, but which he didn't, thank God. Yes, as you said, my name is Heba, and I've been an MS Warrior for about almost 6 years now. No two MS patients are alike, just debilitated, fever, tenderness, burning sensation, just sick. Then my MS started to get aggressive. And, there was one time where I was home, I was just doing the dishes and stuff, and then my arms literally fell to my sides. I was driving and my right arm just gave out on me.
The Just MS Show with host Justin Loizos. With guest Heba Subeh-Hyder.
Okay, so welcome to the show. This is the Just MS podcast. We have our guest today, Heba, who's unfortunately a fellow MSer. And we're going to talk today about her journey with MS. And I feel as though we're all going to be rather intrigued. I already am. I'm really looking to find out a lot more about her and her journey. So from there, I'm going to ask you to do a brief introduction, just because I feel you would do a lot more justice to yourself than I possibly could. Except I'll pause there for a moment and just say that I've really appreciated looking into your sort of journey story from what I've been able to through your links, and already from what I've been made aware of through social media. And fascinating. I think you seem like a very intriguing and sort of, I want to say awesome. I very like a very positive energy, and it seems like you're always just putting good out into the world. And so that'll be my sort of lead into your introduction. Pardon me.
Thank you so much, Justin. Honestly, I'm so glad to be here. And I followed you for quite some time as well. And I think that it all started when I shared something on the National MS Society page. I want to say that's when we started following each other. But yes, as you said, my name is Heba, and I've been an MS Warrior for about almost 6 years now. It's been quite the journey, and but honestly, it's a blessing in disguise for me. And because without it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I know a lot of people say that, and it's as corny as it sounds, but I really wouldn't. I really don't think I would be. And I really don't think I would have such a positive outlook on life as I do now. It's driven me to become an author. It's driven me to, do things that I would never even have dreamt of doing before my diagnosis, because I feel like once a person is told that they're limited or they're faced with, whatever threats that we are faced with on a daily basis, it drives us to kind of push boundaries and to get to that, just what is our maximum ability to do something, and we want to do it because we don't want to be defined by it.
Turned you into an A-type, just transition right away.
It's crazy.
It is.
But thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Wow. You're very welcome. And I'm more than happy to have you, and especially learning about this sort of journey. I think we'll say your resume before MS was, it was, it seemed to be like a very hardworking, well-educated person who was focused. So then MS hits, right?
Yeah.
How about early symptoms? What was that like? What led you to believe that you may have something happening inside of you?
So slowly and gradually the fatigue started to hit, and I would be more tired than usual. I always chalked it up to, I'm a mom of young kids, and of course I'm going to be tired, but it was a different kind of tired. And even my friends, in hindsight, they would tell me, we wanted to tell you to go see a doctor because you were too tired, more than usual. And And then the prickly, the tingly sensations started to hit my body. And it first started with my hands.
Okay.
And I woke up one day and they were just so tingly. And I'm like, well, I slept wrong. And, but it didn't go away for days and days and days. And I said, well, this is weird. I've never felt that before, more than just a few minutes or an hour tops. And then my legs started to feel it. But the red flag for me was when I would put my hand on my torso and I wouldn't feel my hand. So I was feeling the numbness now. And then every time I would look down, I'd feel just like a shooting sensation throughout my spine. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, I'm just wondering the progression over time, like from like, how was that like before you got to this point? How much time elapsed?
So I want to say I felt it really in like January of 2016, but
Okay.
the fatigue was earlier. And then January of 2016 is when the hand thing started. And I went to the doctor about a couple months later because it went away after a couple of weeks, and then it came back, and it came back with a vengeance, and it came back and lasted even longer. And a couple months into it, that's when I started to feel the numbness. And I went to the doctor, my primary care physician, and, she took all the necessary blood work, found out I was severely deficient, vitamin D deficient.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I was prescribed vitamin D, and she referred me to a nerve conduction specialist. And the nerve conduction specialist was basically checking out my nerves and making sure that they're working properly and what have you. And by like sending electric kind of like shocks throughout my body. And it was very uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she said, listen, if everything turns out normal here, I highly suggest you go see a specialist. And I said, well, what do you mean? What kind of specialist? She said, a neurologist. I said, uh-oh, okay. Yeah. And that's how it started. I can continue to tell you my journey with the neurologist and all that good stuff.
I think, yeah, in the very like the first steps, because I always find it so interesting. And maybe if we could even, if you feel comfortable, letting us know just how you felt, because I find, for me at least, and I think many MS patients, there's so many, you were talking about this, the sensations, the numbing, the buzzing, but maybe were there any sort of psychological issues happening at the same time, or how are you handling it all? It seems like a lot and fast paced too.
Yeah, it was very fast paced, which is actually, I really appreciate the swiftness of how my doctors handled the situation. I didn't have time to kind of feel anything about it because I was just going through, going with the flow. Okay, what do we need to do next? What do we need to do next? And it was something serious happening to me, was like the furthest thing from my mind. And I'm not the type of person that dwells on things or I don't let things get to me emotionally, mentally, or anything. And I've always, and now I see like why I was given that personality, because I've dealt with so many things in my life that if I were to sit there and just focus on all of that, I don't know if I would have survived, to be honest with you. But I went to the neurologist and I told her everything that was happening. And she said, okay, well, there are two possible things that could be happening with you. It could be multiple sclerosis, which I was like, I think I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah. Did you have any kind of association or?
No, nothing. Maybe I've heard of MS like once in my entire life, but I knew it was something serious, but it's still, I'm like, okay, sure, MS, and completely went over my head. And then she said, or it could be some sort of growth along your spinal cord, and, which could be surgically resolved. And I said, okay, let's find out what it is. She had me have like a full body MRI. And so she called me into her office just a couple days later. And my husband was like, hey, I can go with you. And I'm like, no, you have work. Like, are you kidding me? So I'm just going to go and be told that it's nothing and it can be easily resolved. And that's it.
Sure.
I went to her office. She looked at me. I had the scans of the MRI on the wall. I was looking at them. And she put her hand on my knee and she said, Heba, I'm afraid you have multiple sclerosis. And I was like, okay. And like that initial shock of your diagnosis. And I said, well, can you tell me what that is? And she's like, okay, you see these spots. She showed me the lesions in my brain, along my spinal cord, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And
Sure.
And then she was telling me, and as she was like telling me all of this information, I'm just sitting back and like still in shock. And then and I've never had any kind of reaction like that before, but I start to a little bit hyperventilate. And, when you hear like you could go blind, you could be paralyzed, you could, like bladder issues and this and that. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I would calm down. And then I would start back up and I would calm down. And then I told her, I need you to stop. I'm not processing anything right now.
Okay.
I need you to stop. I need to come back with my husband so that we can both sit with you and I can take notes because I'm not registering anything.
It's overwhelmed.
Yeah, I was super overwhelmed. And my husband was so like, my God, I can't believe I didn't go with you. And as you were receiving this, and it was a life-changing event.
Had you had those type of, call it anxieties previous to this, or was this sort of your first experience with that, like the panic and the
the only time I remember that happened was when I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was living in Kuwait at the time. And I was watching, because Kuwait was invaded by Iraq. And I was watching my dad being hauled off by the Iraqi army to get, executed, but which he didn't, thank God. He was saved because I was, having that panic attack and crying and the soldier let him go because he kind of like saw me doing like, oh my God, look at your daughter, So that's really the only time I remember. But that's another story for another time. So
do you feel that maybe after that there was a wall that maybe came out? I'm not a psychologist, I don't know, but it does, since there was no other event after, maybe it was just like up went a wall, soldier up. I can't imagine.
Honestly, I do. I feel like God gave me this like dismissive sort of personality where I don't harp on things. I don't dwell on things as survival mechanism,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I feel what I feel and then I move forward. So I don't like bottle anything up anymore. And I just keep moving on with my life.
And this has helped you with MS, do you find, or?
Yeah. Oh my God,
being able to
absolutely.
process and just not letting it get on the better of you. Do you feel you've been able to keep strong through this since your diagnosis?
Yeah. In the beginning, when you first find out and then you drown yourself in research and you join all these Facebook groups and chat groups about MS, and that's a big no. Like, at least for me, I could not. I was just paranoid about it. And oh my God, this and that happened to me today. And oh my God, I've been like this for this many years and all of that. So I was, through these comments and chat rooms and groups, I was seeing myself in the future, and I did not want to do that. And so I actively, like I consciously told myself, do not do this to yourself. Don't join any of this. No two MS patients are alike.
Yes.
Just because it happened to this person doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. Take it day by day. And it took me a couple of months to figure that out. Take it day by day, or else you'll drive yourself crazy and you'll paralyze yourself with fear.
Literally.
Of the unknown and of something you can't control. And if you're not in control of something, then why worry about it? So that was at least what worked for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. I'm just saying this is what I used for myself.
Yeah, I find that it's you don't come across too many people who run online when they're feeling great and want to shout about it. No, it's when you're stuck down and you're angry and you maybe don't want to move because you can, but it's easy to type or to put into a phone. So you're very probably wise in avoiding that, or at least removing yourself. Maybe for the time being, I don't know, something to revisit potentially. I don't know, but yeah, I feel community can be a great resource if approached properly, and maybe for everybody, like you said, is a little bit different. So I wonder now if you could just maybe tell us about the way that your disease has sort of changed over time, progressed, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So right after that, the neurologist prescribed self injections, and Extavia is the medication that she gave me. And she told me to give myself these injections every other day. And that is usually like, someone who is, according to her, someone who is first diagnosed, they give them this medication. It is the easiest, I guess, I don't know, it's kind of less harsh on you, which I find
it's
strange because
so here's one of the hard things that I find, that it's a bit of, I believe, a bit of interferon, and it's they found a lot of success with this medicine. It seems like it's potentially worse due to the daily or maybe by like every other day injections. However, what's happening internally is probably a little easier on the system than, say, something that's a little bit like a second line therapy for these disease modifications.
Yeah, and I think you said it perfectly. Unfortunately, it wasn't working for me. So, not only did I have to deal with injecting myself every other day, which was fine for me. I have no issue with needles or anything like that. And I could just take it. But it was making me really, really sick. So the side effects were, flu-like symptoms. So every other day I would just be in bed, just debilitated, fever, tenderness, burning sensation, just sick and sore all over. And was the good outweighing the bad, the side effects? And for me, it wasn't, because then my MS started to get aggressive. And I was on this medication for a few months. I didn't see any, improvement in my symptoms. In fact, I saw them worsening. And, there was one time where I was home, I was just doing the dishes and stuff, and then my arms literally fell to my sides. Like they got heavy all of a sudden, and this burning sensation traveled from my right arm to my left, to my chest, to my left arm. They got so heavy and they just fell to my sides, and I couldn't move them. I couldn't do anything. And it was really, really scary. And it stayed like that for about a couple hours. And then a time when I was driving and my right arm just like gave out on me. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? A time when I woke up and my right leg, I couldn't feel it. And I was limping for weeks and weeks. And then I called my doctor and I was like, listen, it's not working. I feel like I'm getting worse. And she said, you know what? I need to refer you to an MS specialist, because she was a general neurologist.
Okay.
Yeah, so she referred me to an MS specialist who was amazing. And
did you have to travel very far to meet them, or were they local?
So at the time I was living in a city called Bakersfield, and the MS specialist was in Los Angeles, and that was about 2 hours away.
Okay.
And so I would have to like see her every, 6 months. until I moved here, thank God, and I moved more local to her, but like still a little bit far. But now I have a third or a second MS specialist that I'm seeing, whom I freaking love. Like he's such an expert, and he makes me so like feel so at ease and like I'm in good hands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this MS specialist in LA, she put me on the infusion that I'm on right now, which
And may
is,
I ask, sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you were, I cut you off. I was just going to ask you which medication it is that you're on now.
So it was rituximab at the time, Rituxan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't FDA approved, but like, who cares? Because it had 70% efficacy. And so I'm like, why wouldn't you put me on this from the beginning? And it was for the same reason that you stated, because it's easier on the system and what have you. But it's been great, aside from, your immune system obviously suffers and you start to develop other stuff here and there, and you're medicated. I mean, the dosage is so great, as I'm sure you're aware. And it's an infusion I take every 6 months. It's a form of chemotherapy. I think all the pre-medication also that you have to take before you take that specific medication is, hard on the system too. But, it takes a toll on your body. And but my MS symptoms have gotten better. The fatigue, is still, I think that's one of the hardest things to deal with, is the fatigue.
Would you say fatigue is number one worst symptom for you, or what would you say it is?
I think so, because it's visible. You know what I mean? All the other ones, cognition, sometimes I'm slow, and I'm just like, I can't remember the word spoon. And I have to pause. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah, so I'm still on that infusion. It's actually called Truxima now, and it's FDA approved. It's just the FDA approved version of Rituxan.
Yeah.
But I'm very thankful for it.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm glad that it's working. Have you gotten updates on your MRIs with this medicine? Like, have you been able to look at them and seeing if there's any sort of new lesions or anything like that?
So every 6 months I do an MRI, and I remember a couple of years ago I did one. There was an increase in lesions, but not significant. And my neurologist doubled my dosage for my next treatment, and then my MRIs after that were the same. I'm due for one in a couple of months, so we'll see what happens, because you develop kind of like new symptoms, and you think, are we, are there more lesions? Are there, because I just started to experience the MS hug that we all know and love, and I don't know if you've been through that, but dude, I've read about it, and I'm like, okay, I don't think I've had it yet. And then one day, sure enough, you wake up and you're like, whoa, what is that? Like, you just feel sore.
Yeah.
Like, that's the hug that I do not want. Also, I am not a hugger, so either way.
This one, it's hard. It's so, like, it's unfortunate because you can't avoid it once it's there. It can't just squeeze out of this hug. It's on you.
And it's labored breathing too, because so obviously MS causes muscle weakness. So I think the muscles in my chest are, being affected now. And the past couple of months I've been on and off with the MS hug and the labored breathing. And I'm actually going to see my doctor about it this Friday, because she said if it's not, you have to rule out like everything that has to do with heart issues first, once it's chest problems. And then she said, if it is in fact an MS issue, then we have to, take action, because, muscle weakness in your chest, I mean, that's not a good thing, obviously. So, but I mean, I think I'm thankful for my treatment. I'm thankful that I have access to a great specialist. I am, who says, by the way, that I will probably need to do my treatment once a year instead of twice a year now, because my B cells aren't reproducing as well as they should and as fast as they should. And he doesn't want to eventually
Deplete. Yeah.
deplete all of it,
Wow.
you know? So yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's a double-edged sword. It's like, sure, yay, once a year. And I'm stable as far as I know. But at the same time, oh my God, that's kind of serious. Like, you know, like, I don't know. It's just crazy stuff happening to your body. I felt that way since day one with him. He has been there and he has been candid and he has been, you know, just compassionate. And the thing that I love the most is that he's such an expert to the point that, you know, you just feel completely secure and safe. And you're like, okay, he knows what he's talking about. He's been researching and doing this for years. And he always has like good news for me. And and if it's like scary stuff to deal with, he's like, don't worry about it. We can do this. And
Oh, wow.
You know, I'm in good hands, which I'm so blessed to be. And he is the type of person that is very professional, yet, you know, he will listen to you and he will take his time with you. And he knows what he's doing and what he's talking about, because I've seen 2 other neurologists before him and I definitely feel the difference.
Interesting. I can appreciate that in my own right. And even if it's so much so as just me feeling comfortable because of whatever reason. And I think there's a lot of specialists, and I'm in a great MS clinic, but I would imagine that all of the neurologists are excellent in their own right, and you might just click a little bit better with one, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I haven't had like a bad one or anything, or incapable, but I feel like he is the best I've had.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm in a good place, you know, with him. And, you know, he says, listen, you're good right now. You're stable. And we are going to take it down to once a year, the treatment, but you're going to have an MRI soon. And if it shows any changes whatsoever, then we'll go back to your infusion.
Right.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. When was your last like relapse, if you will?
I would think that this constricting chest issue has been a relapse, or something that's, even though it's a new symptom for me, because it did go on for a few days and then it took a break and then it came back, and right now I'm on a break from it. I'm in remission from it. But the fatigue, Justin, it's like ongoing, you know, and there are some days like the other day, and you've been there where you just cannot function, and you are in bed the whole time. You're too tired to reach for the remote to do anything. Your mind is not there.
Silence. I don't even put on classical music sometimes, nothing, not even a distraction, just silence.
Yeah. Because you're not all there and that's very debilitating, especially when, you know, as a parent, my kids still need me. You know, like it's really hard. And sometimes to see things on paper, like if my youngest is like, Mom, I need help with math or something. And I'm like looking at it and nothing makes sense to me. I'm just like, oh my God, go to your dad. Come to me with another subject. But
you're able to not let that get the best of you for the most part, because you have a good team. Go to your husband, taps in, and you guys handle it together.
For the most part, even when he was working, you know, farther, we would like FaceTime him. The girls would FaceTime him, be like, you know, Dad, help us with this. And
oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So, and even if they couldn't, I would definitely try to find someone else, because I can't, and I've learned not to pretend with them, you know?
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to give them, my girls are so strong. They've had to face so many things with their mom's illness, and now their dad has unfortunately cancer. And it's just like, my girls are like, we can take it. We've been dealt with so many things like, oh, I can't get into this college. Oh, well, whatever, let's move on. And so,
Right.
yeah, I mean, we make things happen and we move forward and we take it day by day and we handle it.
Wow.
Because that's what we have to do, because that's life.
Amen. I'm sure you're resilient to your children, and I'm sorry about what you're going through as a family and for your husband. It's horrible. I hope he gets a speedy recovery.
Thank you. It's unfortunately incurable, but yeah, nothing is impossible, and we're just like, oh, we are true soulmates. We both have incurable diseases and we'll get infusions at the same time. But like,
wow.
But the good news is, Justin, that if you, as morbid as this sounds, if you were to choose any kind of cancer, this is the kind of cancer you want. Like, it's non-aggressive, but it is incurable. It pops up here and there, and he's under observation constantly. And we're alive and we're blessed and we're quote unquote healthy.
Wow. Well, good for you. And for that note, like, and your ability to keep a positive outlook, because I feel like that alone is going to be an invaluable tool for everybody involved. It's crazy.
It's taught us to be strong, and honestly, we just ground ourselves in our faith, and that helps a lot.
Like, I have just there as a question, like maybe your biggest challenge, right? Like you've had to deal with in your journey. So yeah, if you could let us know and just take it from there, I suppose, because you seem so strong, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, so I wonder if you could
obviously I'm not like all roses and rainbows every single day, every minute. And there are hard days. When I'm faced with those days, like the days that I can't function, the days that I can't be there for my children the way that I should, the days that you miss out on things because you're literally too tired to go anywhere. The day of my husband's diagnosis, and you take the diagnosis of someone that you love like much harder than your own, and it's just mainly being there for my family as I should be, and that I can't do that anymore. That, it gets to you. It makes you feel less than. And then the most important thing for me is not to bury my feelings. And when I'm feeling sad or when I'm feeling angry, I don't want to bury those feelings. And at the same time, I don't want to dwell on those feelings. And so I feel what I need to feel and I process it the way that I need to process it. And then I move on. And then I think this is not a broken me. This is just a different me. And it is something that I can handle, because going back to, and I'm going to mention this again, because it is honestly the core of my life and how I get through things, is my belief and my faith. And I strongly believe that God never gives you anything over your capacity. He promises us, and he says, I do not burden a soul with more than they can handle. And I have complete reliance on him. And it's just like, hey, don't worry about things that you can't control. Leave it to me. And you just handle the things that you can handle. And so that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Amen. And I'm glad that you have those skill sets and you have the, faith behind you, and you're able to move forward positively. Now, on this same positive note,
yes,
and we could go into this, and you could tell us about your biggest success with MS, because we talked about, or you mentioned this sort of journey the A type, so you've done a lot, but I wonder if you could pin it down to your number one or few successes that you look back on or today and you feel most proud about.
Yeah, sure. I feel most proud about the fact that I'm able to deal with this like positively now, that I'm just surviving day to day. And I feel that without MS, I wouldn't have realized my dream of becoming an author of children's books. It drove me to do what I do because I'm like, you know what, I need to get it done before something happens, before I can't write, before I can't see what I'm writing, before, you know, any of that. And I need to spread this message of love, and I need to make little kids that, you know, the kids that I used to be realize that, you know, your faith is a beautiful thing, and this is what drives you, and this is because it's what drives me. And just put out some goodness into the world, because there isn't much goodness, you know. And so we have to, I kind of was like, I felt desperate to put my work out there, for just to leave behind after I'm gone. Yeah, I just wanted to put out some positivity and to make things okay.
And with this specifically, your children's book, I'm fascinated with this. Like, I don't know, it seems really special. So how did you come up with the title? I think there's this whole story behind it. I really like how just you even made it like a multicultural relationship for the parents to have this diversity, like the complexity of it, just to show the loving nature. It really seems interesting. So if maybe you could just dive into this a little bit for us, I appreciate that.
I love my religion, Islam, and I love being a Muslim, and I didn't grow up loving it, because when you're in, you know, another country that's majority non-Muslim, you're made to feel like an other. And I was always ashamed of who I was. And so I was like, you know, I was hit with MS, and I was like, dude, there are so many things that we're not grateful for, like the ability to walk and the ability to see and the ability, and who gives us that? Like, God gives us that. And I want to thank him through my books. And I want to make little Muslims feel proud to be who they are and to get to know who God really is, and not to be defined by, you know, other people. And so I want to tell our own stories, and I want kids to feel seen and heard and to see themselves in my books. Because when people think of Muslims, they think like, you know, either terrorists or like Arabs or whatever, when Arabs make up the minority of Muslims, actually. And the majority of Muslims are made up of Indonesian people, and in the US, Black Americans. And so I'm like, hey, let's take the two, combine them, make an interracial kind of family here. And this beautiful little girl is born out of it, and her name is Maymunah. And through the stories, she discovers who God is, like through like fun adventures she has with her family, her friends, and all of that. And my stories kind of, you know, teach, they don't preach, and they are stories that I'm so thankful that so many have related to. And, you know, I get feedback from parents like, oh my God, my daughter looks like this girl, and my family looks like this family. And, you know, thank you for representing us, and thank you for being so inclusive. And so that makes me really happy.
Yeah. Amazing, actually.
Thank you.
Oh, kudos. What's the next step with your, because I know you have two versions.
Yes.
Is there
So it's a series.
something?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have two out already. I have a third one it's in the illustration process right now. And then I also wrote for an anthology, a book of short stories that came out in March. And, you know, I have another project lined up, hopefully. And
Go.
yeah, so I'm just keeping busy.
Good for you.
Thank you.
And yeah, congratulations. I think this is all exciting. You seem to have such like a great response from your own community, and the ability to outreach and to kind of like normalize, if that's the right term, and to like welcome people in, to educate them on your own religion, community. And they're okay. So I was going through videos, and I was listening to a podcast here on really beautiful and fascinating. But it starts off, and it's so beautiful because it just starts off, and the gentleman, he's playing this he does a great job. I have to learn from him. But so it runs a clip, and there's these two kids, and you can hear their voices, and it's like, okay, you can sit here, and okay, so you can sit here. It just, I don't know, to me it just feels really, it feels so nice, like just beautiful, like, just kids being really nice to each other, and you're preaching love, and it's so beautiful. And yeah, like, I don't know, kudos. I think it's really nice what you're doing.
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome. Okay, so look, on that note, I think that we were able to kind of, get to know you a little bit better, and I really appreciate your time here. With the Just MS show, I'm really hoping to connect with other MSers. I'm going to use this term. And yeah, just because, like, we've gone through some of the challenges that you face, and we can all relate. So I just feel like building this community together, or helping to build an already existing community, we'll all just be better for it. So thank you for pitching in and in allowing us all to like get to know you a little bit better, and MS as well, because these journeys, as unique as they are, they're also, we can all relate.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. I think that it helps to, and you had mentioned just community helps, and it really, really does. Whenever I see, posts like yours, or, anything on the National MS Society, it makes me feel like seen, it makes me feel heard, it makes me feel not alone, because no matter how great your support system is, no matter how great the people around you are, I still felt alone, in what I was going through, because I knew no one else that had MS. And now that I make it a point to kind of raise awareness of MS on my social media platform as well, tons and tons and tons of messages that I've received. Oh my God, I have MS too. I was just diagnosed. I'm so glad to see your posts about it. I really feel like you understand what I'm going through, and, and they come to me with questions and advice, and just gratefulness and just gratitude that I was raising awareness, which I'm sure you get lots of those messages as well. And because you do a great job with informing people of it.
Try to, thank you. And it's, there's so many, like through social media, I'm able to connect with so many MS patients who do a much better job than myself. But it's everybody's efforts together, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we're all learning, and I'm constantly like, I'm just trying to read new books and anything that comes out. Oh, okay. So we can all learn, but I feel like no matter what, you're gonna read this or some peer-reviewed that. For me personally, I don't feel as though I'll get any, like, there's no better source of data, information, qualitative, if you will, but through one-on-one patient conversations.
Yeah.
Or it could be more of a group conversation in different ratios, potentially, sure. But I just feel as even having a doctor involved, but it's the patient, that part of me, the MSer, the person who suffers from this illness, who I feel has the most valuable information for all of us to kind of digest. So thank you for submitting your information into this pool.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome. And we'll chat again. Thank you.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.